I can see you clear as day through there.
Yeah.
Well, clear as looking through a Land Rover V8 radiator, obviously. Now, it's time to fit the radiator, but let me take you around what we've done on this vehicle since last time. Yes, welcome to a 4x4 is born. A lot's been going on since you've been away drinking tea, earning a living, doing whatever you do, and part of what we've done is to modify the front of the chassis. We've had to do some bracketry on here, including 2 brackets to support the radiator. And the radiator will go in like that, and it will drop in beautifully. Pete, could you just get the old radiator?
Yes.
Just to show why I've had to put a brand new V8 radiator from a Land Rover in, because compare the sizes, compare that size to that size, and you'll see the Range Rover one is actually too wide. So that can go. We'll be having a little sale at the end of the series, getting rid of all the parts we didn't need. So Pete, you can have that as well. Catch this, mate. Okay. Got it? Oh, Pete. Okay, now, also down here, you'll see that we've had to sort out the front of the chassis here in terms of fixings for the front bumper. Now, I've gone for a fully extreme bumper because this is going to be a fully extreme Land Rover. Pete, could you pass in the new bumper, please? Yeah. Bend the knees.
I'll just...
Do you want a hand?
I've got this end.
Right, OK. Got it? It is heavy, isn't it?
It is a bit.
It is extremely good, this bumper. Now, slots over there.
Is it safe?
Of course it's safe. What do you mean safe?
Old people and children. You know, it's one of those...
No, what? So if it hits them? No, it's too high. The old people and the children go underneath.
Oh, right.
OK, that's why you have a lot of clearance on these vehicles. You see, you don't hurt anybody. There are also big changes afoot at the rear end here. If I clamber over, I can show you particularly this side, which is more important because this is where we finished up last time, where we couldn't fit the petrol tank. So, the rear outrigger, we've moved back from a position I originally put it in there, back to on here, because I went and found the 100-inch Land Rover that's in the Dunsfold Land Rover Museum to actually take some measurements off that, and saw they'd put the outrigger here. So we moved it, and it's all fine now, isn't it, Pete? Because it fits.
It fits a treat.
So just to show you and prove that this will slot in there like that. Now, the height of this will depend on the seat box, which you're going to put in a little bit later on, dry fit that. For that, now, mate, you can take that away. Now, you're probably wondering, in fact, I can hear you asking, what is this little piece of box section for?
What is this little piece of box section for?
I'm glad you asked that. You'll find out later. Pete, is now a good time for me to show those pictures I found when I was a kid?
Can we get on?
With the car?
No, can we get on?
Next little job is to put on a pair of these, one either side. It is a sill member, this beastie, fairly substantial piece of galvanised steel, and it fits between the bulkhead here and the rear outrigger here. And the reason we're putting it on is because this bit on the end here slips up inside the tub, and so it gives us a position for where the tub needs to be on the back, because we've got quite a lot of work to do on the tub a bit later on today. So this will drop in here with a plate, which we've welded the attachment bolts to, and then it's just got a couple of fixing points, so they slot on, no worries, and a couple of bolts. Beautiful. And now you can see what this little box section is for, because it supports the end of the sill member at the right height so it doesn't flop down like a wibbly wobbly when we put the tub on. Next job is to take the wheels off, and it'll become very evident in a very short while why we need to do that. This jacking beam is absolutely brilliant on this ramp because it does the job very quickly, neatly, and you can still get under the vehicle. So there we go. This is my second-hand tub. It's a bit damaged, so it does need some repair work on it. And we've got to drop it on. Pete, have you got it? Ooh, hang on. Hold on. It's actually not that heavy because it is aluminium.
It's just a bit awkward.
Yeah, exactly. Awkward is the word. And you can see where it slots, Pete, is over that plate.
Yeah, I got it. How's that?
Perfecto. Next job is I want to put a cross member, a new one, right across between these two rear outriggers to support the bulkhead. So a bit of fabrication. This cross member is going to be made out of this, which is 2-inch by 2-inch mild steel box section. It's 151 centimetres long, or it should be when we finish with it. It's a bit longer than that at the moment because I've got to take this much off. And to do that, you use one of my favourite tools in the workshop, the humongous grinder. clearly we have quite a lot of fabrication to do, and you may be wondering why it is I've chosen to build a Land Rover on a Range Rover chassis. Well, the answer is very simple. I have always been fascinated by a few vehicles that were built by Land Rover themselves back in the 1970s. They were 100-inch Land Rovers, but built on Range Rover chassis. And for die-hard Land Rover enthusiasts the world over, they reckon they're some of the best vehicles Land Rover ever built. Yes, this is the very vehicle that inspired the whole project that I'm now undertaking, and it lives at the Dunsfold Land Rover collection, which is the largest privately owned collection of Land Rovers anywhere in the world, run by Mr. Phil Bashall, a friend of mine, local to where I live. I discovered this when I had a chat with Phil about kind of 100-inch Land Rovers, and amazingly, this was lurking in your yard, which is a piece of history.
It's a lovely piece of history. It's the very first officially coil-sprung Land Rover. It was built by Land Rovers as a feasibility project. Would a Land Rover body actually fit onto a Range Rover coil-sprung chassis? And it was purely a mock-up and a concept vehicle.
But it was a serious project, this, wasn't it? I mean, to try and create a coil-sprung but 100-inch Land Rover. Was there a market for it, or was it just purely a punt in the dark?
It was a punt in the dark. There wasn't a market for it. There would be today, I think, personally, a market for the 100-inch. It's a lovely concept of vehicle. It's the ideal wheelbase. It's the ideal vehicle. But sadly, this one never went beyond the drawing board.
So how many people have actually built a 100-inch Land Rover on a Range Rover chassis?
Quite a few actually are out there. One famous one I can think of is Brian Adams, the musician. He had one built with a 100-inch body, and I believe that's in Canada now.
Do you think it's worth doing, or am I on a hiding to nothing here and should just go out and build a standard 90?
I think you'll be doing the best possible Land Rover you could build. It's the ultimate Land Rover, the ultimate wheelbase.
I'm now making the brackets to hold the cross member onto the tub itself, and there's 4 plates, 6.5 centimetres by 8.5 centimetres in 3mm mild steel, a couple of holes in each for the bolts, but to hold all these plates together so I can drill them all in one block, little tip is just to put a tack of weld all on each side, and that holds it together. You can then drill it up and then grind off the weld when you're finished and separate the 4 pieces. Just makes life a little bit easier. My 4 little plates are now bolted with some 8mm bolts to the bulkhead, 1, 2 over on that side and the 3rd and 4th over here. And now if I slide the box section forward, the box section isn't actually sitting directly on the outriggers, it's sitting on some 3mm plates which will act as other brackets to bolt it through to the outrigger, which I'll put on in a sec. But for now, I need to do a little bit of welding to, if I bring the box section and abut it on the back of the plates here, make sure this end is flush. I need just to tack weld these plates on so it holds it in place, and then I can work on the second brackets which will attach the box section to the outrigger. So a spot of welding. All sorted and looking absolutely beautiful. I'll show you the piece itself, the cross member, when we take the tub off again to just show you how nice it is in real life. Now, the astute amongst you at home watching this programme might have spotted something with this tub. And the problem is that that's where the wheel goes, on the hub there, and the wheel arch is in the wrong place. Which means that I have got to cut out a section, not quite sure exactly how much yet, of the front of this tub to make the whole thing fit. So the first job is going to be to lift this tub up, move it forward to get the wheel arch in the right place, in line with a wheel that I'll put on there. Then I can measure it, then I can chop it. Now, we do like to give you little tips on this programme as well, and the latest tip is it's tea time in the workshop, okay? Very, very important. If you're making a cup of tea for your loved one who's been working for 5 hours in the freezing cold in the workshop at home, you think, I'll make him a cup of tea, make him a happy boy. You bring it in and you put it on something metal. Don't ever do that because it will chill down in seconds. Always put it on a piece of wood. Les, what are you doing? What are you doing? Trying to put it in the glove box?
I haven't got a glove box.
For goodness sake, man. I mean, can I just show you something? Right? When you want to drive this, how the hell are you gonna get in there? Oh! Oh, I've just caught something.
Are you hooked up on your airbag?
I've got... Right, here we go.
He's crying, look, Jill.
Right, it's obvious now that the wheel is too far back in the wheel arch. So this lot's all got to come this way a bit. All right, guys, back my way.
Okay.
Coming back.
Yeah.
A minute. Oh, too far. Just forwards a bit and then leave it there a sec. I'm just getting it roughly to look right first. Bit my way.
Yeah. How's that? Okay,
right, let me just measure that. I've got a rough measurement down here from the point of the wheel arch there to the centre of the hub. Okay. Needs to come a little bit further forward.
Okay. Ready? Go on, come on. Back a bit. Back a bit, Mark.
All right. It doesn't need to be absolutely precise this at the moment, but okay, that's more like it. Now it does look a bit odd this, if you're not used to it, because the wheel looks as if it's too far forward in the wheel arch, but that's fine, that's the way it should be, because when the wheel moves up on its suspension to meet the top of the wheel arch here, it actually moves, doesn't go straight up and down like that, it actually moves in an arc, so when it comes up on the suspension, it will then be in the middle. So that's cool, that's fine. What I need to do at the front though now is measure the aperture for the door, which will give me a rough guide for the moment as to how much I need to cut off this tub. Right, Pete, have you got a door?
Yep.
All right, got it?
Yep.
If you hold it roughly in the position where the hinges are going to be, but just to show you how much roughly we've got to cut off, it's going to be something like about to here. Okay, Pete?
Yep.
Get rid of that. So, pretty much, it's got to come to somewhere about there. So that's the amount we've got to lose. The problem is, you can see here, all these spot welds that go down this line here attach the bulkhead on the inside on that sloping face there. So to be able to take the bulkhead out, which we need to do, and move the bulkhead backwards by that, about that amount, means all this has got to be unstitched, remove it, and then chop this off afterwards. So quite a lot of work, and it all starts with drilling out spot welds. Now, while you're there, just Pete,
No,
Pete, no, Pete, somebody at the door.
No,
Pete.
no, sorry, no.
Pete,
no photographs. Oh, doesn't he look sweet?
Me. Perfect. Right. Let the drilling commence. To take out these spot welds, first thing is just to centre pop them. And then you drill them out using this very special drill bit. The point there is on a spring. That goes into your centre pop on the weld, and as you push in on the drill, it springs back like that, and then the cutter comes into play, cuts out the whole of the weld, and then when you've gone through one panel and not through the second panel, you can then just push the rear panel off and your weld's gone. So there we go. After a bit of a struggle, we've released that, and you can see it's starting to peel away this side panel from the bulkhead. We're going to retain all this here and just move it all backwards. So that's one side down, to the side to go, and then I can rip out to the bulkhead and cut some bits off with a plasma cutter. Now that's a hell of a tool. Jubbly, right. Things have moved on a bit now, because not least of which I've been home, had a bit of a shave and changed my shirt. But also, and more importantly in terms of the 4x4 build, is the fact that I've now removed the bulkhead completely, and I've cut this side down to its proper new length and bent over a new edge here, which I'm very proud of, and I'll show you how to do that a little bit later on, and also created new flapettes, as I call them, which we will fix the bulkhead to the tub through those little flapettes. It sounds really good to say that. I really like that word. Now, back over here is the tool for the job, my plasma cutter. Very nice bit of kit, can cut through any kind of metal, which is good news because like the oxyacetylene cutting that you saw in the last programme, you can only really do that on metals that you can oxidise easily, like steel, because it rusts, okay? But this will cut through anything, brass, copper, stainless, whatever. Now, Pete, how does a plasma cutter work? Pete?
In a word, who knows? It's a machine that cuts metal.
Yeah.
As you've explained.
But why plasma then?
Well, it's a bit like your plasma screen, isn't it? You know.
Similar technology, is it?
Yeah, yeah. And lots of little dots and, isn't it? Negative ions.
Go and sit down by your monitor somewhere. You see, that's a common mistake people make. They think plasma screens or whatever. Basically, this is a machine that creates lightning. Lightning is plasma, right? If you superheat a gas, like air, to a point that it can conduct electricity, like lightning does, that is what happens out of the end of there. You get a little bolt of lightning that then goes shoot through there, creating a heat of 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Cuts through anything. That is what a plasma cutter does. Is that a good tool or what? It's time for bending next. Yes, we're cracking on a pace here. What I've got to do now is create the lip on the edge of the tub here, which the bulkhead will sit behind. So 15 mil of this, to about the thickness of my finger, needs to be bent at right angles. Problem area is this curve here, because obviously you're bending the curve, we're going to have too much metal on the inside of the curve because the distance on the inside will be less. And so I've cut out this piece here to leave less metal, so when it bends around there's a bit of space for it to move. Now in terms of bending it around here, the straight bits are easy because you can just get two ordinary blocks of wood, like these, but a bit longer. You can clamp them either side like that, and then you can bash round and sort yourself out a bend. Bit more difficult when it gets to a curve though. So what you do is you get a block of wood. This is a template that was a piece of the side of the body panel like that, which I just cut off, which I've been using as a straight edge to plasma cut against. Plonked it on there, drew round it, cut it out with a jigsaw, and you end up with that, two pieces. And you need both pieces because they will go one up on the inside, one up on the outside like that, again clamped, and that gives you the perfect shape to be able to knock your crease into. But the problem is this aluminium is quite hard and it needs annealing, softening with a bit of heat to get it back into a position where I can bend it without cracking it. Now the problem with aluminium is, unlike steel, which goes through a number of colour changes when you heat it, so you can work out roughly how hot it is before it falls apart, aluminium doesn't. So you use an indicator. Now the indicator, you could use all kinds of clever stuff you could buy from a welding shop, but you could either use this or some soap, ordinary bar of soap. I happen to prefer using this stuff. And all you do is just smear a bit of your washing up liquid all the way down where you're going to anneal it. You heat it up from the back so you can see what's happening. Oh, bubbles! And you keep heating it until it goes dark, like that. And then you know that it's reached about the right temperature. It does deform the shape a little bit, but you don't need to worry about that because when it cools down, it will come back again. So we are now altering the molecular structure of this aluminium in a kind of caring, sensitive kind of way. Right, so needs a bit of dressing up, but there we go. One bend. Have a butcher's. Right, prepped up the bulkhead, so it's a moment of truth. Pop it in. Those have got a line over the strengtheners, mate, okay?
All right.
I measured you, right?
Yep.
Go in.
Dropped in. I've done mine.
My end should be
Where do the seats go?
in front of this.
Half a mil. 20,000. That's it.
You're making it all up, I think, as you're going along this lot, aren't you?
Making it up as we go along.
Let me tell you, that was accurate.
Hang on.
We're
Does
there.
that fit? Are we there? We're there! We're there!
I'll keep all of this.
How exciting. We'll just quickly cleco it together before it falls apart. I promised I'd show you the finished bulkhead cross member. There it is, not bolted in yet because we need some adjustment backwards and forwards when we test fit the tub. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. So after a lot of fettling, I'm very proud of this tub, I have to say. It's the biggest piece of metalwork I've done for a long time.
Huge.
Hang on. And if it doesn't fit now, I'm going to the pub. It's a very important moment, this, in the project. Happy there? Oh, yes! Look at this! You beauty! Very nice. I'm very pleased with that. It just looks absolutely perfect. Really short at the back, which gives us the fantastic short overhang when we go off-roading. It'll be brilliant. It just looks in proportion. How exciting!
You need to get that weld sounding like your favourite bacon frying on a Sunday morning.
It's amazing how quickly it all comes to pieces. Compared to MIG welding, that is tricky.